Quick! Drive him out of the country. Make his life unbearable. He's undermining law and order. He's a spy in the pay of my deadly enemies. He's bought a house with Moscow or Berlin gold. You don't understand, little man. A little old woman was afraid of mice. She was afraid the mice would crawl under her skirt and between her legs. She wouldn't have had such a phobia if she had ever known love. She was my neighbour. She knew I had mice in the cellar. Through my work on these mice, I learned to understand your cancer. The poor little woman put pressure on you, little man, who happened to be my landlord, to evict me. Armed with your great courage, your lofty idealism and morality, you gave me notice. I had to buy a house. That was the only way in which I could go on examining mice, unmolested by you and your cowardice. What did you do, you little man? As an ambitious little district attorney, you decided to use me, a prominent figure widely regarded as dangerous, to further your career. You said I was a German or a Russian spy. You had me arrested. But it was worth it to see you sitting there at my hearing, blushing to the roots of your hair. You were so pathetic I felt sorry for you. And when your secret agents searched my house for incriminating material, the things they said about you weren't nice. Later on I met you again, this time in the person of a little Bronx judge with high ambitions and an uncertain future. You made a point of having my books by Lenin and Trotsky in my library. Of my having books by Lenin and Trotsky in my library. You didn't know what a library is, little man. I told you to your face that I also had Hitler and Buddha and Jesus and Goethe and Napoleon and Casanova in my library, and explained that to understand the emotional plague, one must examine it closely from all angles. That was news to you, little judge. Throw him in jail. He's a fascist. He despises the people. You're not the people, little man. You're the one who despises the people, because you work not for their rights, but for your career. This too has been told to you by many number of great-hearted men, but you've never read them, little man. I'm sure of that. I show respect for the people by incurring serious danger to tell them the truth. I could just as well play bridge with you and crack stupid jokes. But I wouldn't sit at the same table with you. You're a poor advocate of the Declaration of Independence. He's a Trotskyite. Throw him in jail, the no-good Red. He's stirring up the people. Calm down, little man. I'm not stirring up the people. I'm trying to stir up your self-confidence in humanity, and you can't put up with that, because you want to make a career and win votes so as to become a high court judge or a leader of the world proletariat. Your justice and your leadership, little man, are a rope around the neck of mankind. What did you do to Woodrow Wilson, the great warm-hearted man? To you, if you're a judge in the Bronx, he was a crazy idealist. Or if you're a coming leader of the world proletariat, he was a capitalist bloodsucker. You murdered him, little man, murdered him with your indifference, your stupid talk, your fear of your hope. You almost murdered me, little man. Do you remember my laboratory 10 years ago? I took you on as an assistant. You were unemployed. Someone had recommended you as an outstanding socialist, a member of the government party. You drew a good salary and were free in every sense of the word. I invited you to all our conferences because I believed in you and your mission. Do you remember, little man, what happened then? Freedom went to your head. Day after day I saw you roaming around with your pipe in your mouth, doing nothing. Why weren't you working? I couldn't understand it. In the morning when I came into the lab, you waited provocatively for my greeting. I like to greet people first, little man, but when someone waits for my greeting, it makes me angry, because from your point of view, I was your senior and employer. I let you abuse your freedom for another few days, then I had a talk with you. You tearfully admitted that you couldn't adjust to the new conditions. You weren't used to freedom. In your previous position, you hadn't been allowed to smoke in your boss's presence. You'd been allowed to speak only when spoken to. Your future leader of the world proletariat. And now that you were given real freedom, you became insolent and provocative. Because I understood you, I didn't fire you. Then you left and told some sexually abstinent court psychiatrist about my experiments. You were the secret informer, one of the contemptible hypocrites who unleashed the newspaper campaign against me. That's what you're like, little man, when you're given freedom. But, contrary to your intention, your persecution advanced my work by 10 years. In view of all this, I'm bidding you goodbye, little man. I will serve you no more. I refuse to let my concern for you torture me slowly to death. You can't follow me to the distant places I'm bound for. You'd be scared to death if you so much as suspected what the future has in store for you, because undoubtedly you're in the process of inheriting the earth, little man. My remote solitudes are a part of your future. But for the present, I don't want you as a travelling companion. As a travelling companion, you may be all right in a club car, but not where I'm going. Kill him. He despises the civilization that I, the little man in the street, have built. I'm a free citizen of a free democracy. Hurrah! You're nothing, little man. Nothing whatever. You didn't build this civilization. It was built by a few of your more decent masters. Even if you're a builder, you don't know what you're building. If I or someone else were to say, take responsibility for what you're building, you'd call me a traitor to the proletariat and flock to the father of all proletarians, who does not say such things. You're not free, little man, and you haven't the faintest idea what freedom is. You wouldn't know how to live in freedom. Who brought the plague to power in Europe? You, little man, and in America? Think of Wilson. Listen to him. He's accusing me, the little man. Who am I? What power have I to interfere with the President of the United States? I do my duty and obey my orders. I don't meddle with politics. When you drag thousands of men, women and children to the gas chambers, you're only obeying orders. Is that right, little man? And you're so innocent you don't even know that such things are happening. And you're only a poor devil whose opinion counts for nothing, who hasn't even got one. And who are you, anyway, that you should meddle with politics? I know, I've heard all that many times. But then I ask, why don't you do your duty in silence when a wise man tells you that you and you alone are responsible for what you do, or tries to persuade you not to beat your children, or pleads with you for the 1000th time to stop obeying dictators? What becomes of your duty, your innocent obedience then? No, little man, when truth speaks, you don't listen. You listen only to bluster, and then you shout, hurrah, hurrah. You're cowardly and cruel, little man. You've no sense of your true duty, which is to be a man and to preserve humanity. You imitate wise men so badly and bandits so well. Your movies and radio programs are full of murder. You will drag yourself and your meanness through many centuries before becoming your own master. I'm bidding you goodbye in order to work more effectively for your future, because when I'm far away you can't kill me, and you respect my work more in the distance than close at hand. You despise anything that's too close to you. That's why you put your proletarian general or marshal on a pedestal. Then, however contemptible he may be, you can respect him. And that's why great men have given you a wide berth since the dawn of history. That's megalomania. The man is stark raving mad. I know, little man. You're very quick to diagnose madness when the truth doesn't suit you. You regard yourself as normal. You've locked up the lunatics and the world is run by you normal people. Then who's to blame for all the trouble? Not you, of course. You only do your duty. And who are you to have an opinion of your own? I know. You don't have to say it again. It's not you I'm worried about, little man. But when I think of your children, when I think how you torment the life out of them trying to make them normal like yourself, I almost want to come back to you and do what I can to stop your crimes. But I also know that you've taken precautions against that by appointing commissioners of education and child care. I wish I could take you on a little tour of the world, little man, to show you what you, as the apostle and embodiment of the people, are and have been, in the present and in the past, in Vienna, London and Berlin. You'd find yourself everywhere and recognize yourself without difficulty, regardless of whether you're a Frenchman, German or a Hottentot. If only you had the courage to look at yourself. He's insulting me. He's desecrating my mission. I'm not insulting you, little man, and I'm not desecrating your mission. I'll be only too glad if you show me I'm wrong, if you prove that you're capable of looking at yourself and recognizing yourself, if you can give me the same kind of proofs as I'd expect of a mason who's building a house. I'd expect him to show me that the house exists and is fit to live in. And if I prove that instead of building houses, he merely talks about his mission to build houses, this mason will hardly be entitled to accuse me of insulting him. In the same light, it's up to you to prove that you are the apostle and the embodiment of man's future. It's no use trying to hide like a coward behind the honour of the nation or of the proletariat, because you've already shown too much of your true nature. I say it again, I'm bidding you goodbye. It's taken me many years and cost me a good many sleepless, tormented nights. Your coming leaders of the world proletariat don't make things so hard for themselves. Today they're your leaders, and tomorrow you'll find them grinding out copy for some nondescript weekly. They'll change their opinions as easily as a man changes his shirt. I don't change my opinions as if they were dirty shirts. I keep faith with you in your future, But since you're incapable of respecting anyone you rub shoulders with, I'm obliged to get away from you. Your great-grandchildren will inherit my efforts. I know that, and I don't mind waiting for them to enjoy the fruits of my labours, just as I've been waiting for 30 years for you to accept and make use of them. But all you do is shout, hurrah, hurrah, or down with capitalism, or down with the Constitution. Some 100 years ago, echoing the physicists and machine builders, you began to babble that the soul doesn't exist. Then a great man came and showed you your soul, but he wasn't able to tell you how this soul is anchored in your body. You said, psychoanalysis is absurd, it's charlatanism. Urine can be analysed, but just not the soul. You were able to talk like that because all you saw in medicine was urine analysis. The struggle for your soul went on for 40 hard years. I know that struggle because I took part in it for your sake. One day you found out that you could make a lot of money out of the diseased human soul. It sufficed to have a mental patient spend an hour a day with you for several years and to charge him so much an hour. Then, and not a moment sooner, did you become convinced that the soul exists. In the meantime, the study of your perishable body proceeded quietly. I discovered that your soul is a function of your life energy. In other words, that body and soul are a unity. By following this clue, I further discovered that your life energy stretches out when you feel happy and loving and contracts when you are suffering from anxiety. For 15 years you ignored me, but I continued along the same lines and discovered that this life energy, which I called orgone, also exists in the atmosphere outside your body. I succeeded in seeing it in the dark and in devising an apparatus with which to magnify it and make it visible in flashes. For 2 years, while you were playing cards or talking political nonsense or tormenting your wife or ruining your child, I was spending many hours a day in the dark, verifying my discovery of your life energy. Little by little, I found a way of demonstrating it to others, and it became evident that they saw the same thing as I did. And now, if you happen to be a doctor who believes the psyche to be a secretion of the endocrine glands, you tell one of the patients I've been able to cure that my success was due to suggestion. If you happen to suffer from obsessive doubts and to be afraid of the dark, you say the phenomenon you have just observed was a product of suggestion, and that you felt as if you were attending a spiritualist seance. That's the way you are, little man. In 1946, you're making preposterous assertions about the soul as confidently as you denied its existence in 1920. You're still the same, little man. In 1984, you won't hesitate to make money out of the orgone and to slander, ridicule, and belittle some other truth. Just as you have slandered, ridiculed, and belittled the discovery of the soul or of the cosmic energy. And you will go right on being the little man, the critical little man, ubiquitously shouting, hurrah, hurrah. Do you remember how you ridiculed the discovery that the earth does not stand still but rotates on its axis and revolves around the sun? By saying that if this were true, the glasses on a waiter's tray would totter and fall off. That was a few 100 years ago, little man. Of course you've forgotten. All you know about Newton is that he saw an apple falling from a tree, and of Rousseau that he wanted to go back to nature. From Darwin, you took only the struggle for existence, but not the fact that you were descended from the ape. And of Goethe's Faust, which you're so fond of quoting, you understand no more than a cat understands of mathematics. You are stupid and vain, empty and ape-like, little man. With a deadly certainty, you miss the essential and cling to the fallacy. I've told you that before. In your bookstores you displayed deluxe editions of books about your Napoleon, that little man in gold braid who left the world nothing but universal conscription, but in none of your bookstores is it possible to find a copy of my Kepler, with his early intimation of your cosmic origins. That's why you are and remain in the muck, little man. That's why you persist in believing that I spent 20 years of my worry and pains, not to mention money, trying to convince you of the existence of cosmic energy by suggestion. No, little man. In sacrificing so much, I actually learned to heal the plague in your body. You don't believe me. In Norway, I heard you say, anybody who spends so much money on experiments is literally mad. I understood you. You judge me by yourself. You can only take. You cannot give. That's why it's no more conceivable to you that a man might find his greatest joy in giving than that it might be possible to spend 3 minutes with a member of the opposite sex without starting to fuck.